Welcome, ladies, to day number 13 of this amazing Fearless Woman of Faith Speaker Challenge. I don't know about you, but each day I get reignited, restirred with fresh vision and fresh understanding of how powerful the God that we serve is, but also the what He's put within us, the gift, the the mission that we have on this earth, but also the urgency of the hour that God wants us to take hold of all that He has called us to. And so I hope that you are being stirred. I hope that you are being expanded in your understanding, but also being ignited to step into your place of influence in a much bigger way. Then you might be saying, Lisa, I don't really know what my place of influence is. Well, guess what? Start giving out of what God has given you, and that will become much clearer. Wherever He has you, begin to give out whatever He's given you, and He will begin to direct and clarify. That's the way that God works with me, and I know that He often doesn't give us a full picture. He gives us enough to move in the direction. So I want to encourage you, and a little later on, maybe today, maybe Wednesday, I'm going to share with you some things about moving forward, taking action. What are some things you need to do in order to step into this? Because I don't know about you, but enough time has passed. We're good at procrastinating. Let me know in the comments if you're good at procrastinating. For whatever reasons, we make all these excuses, but here's what I know to be true. God honors action takers. Obedience. We see that in the parable of the talents. We see that in so many ways. When God calls us, He expects us to respond. And so sometimes we need a little help with understanding what is that next right step. So today, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to a friend of mine, someone we have met over the internet. One of the beautiful things about the internet, that we can connect with people that we would have never known probably if it had not been for this opportunity that we have online. And we connected in the last year. And I know that you are going to be blessed beyond belief when you hear what she has to say, but also hear about her journey and how God wants to pour into you nuggets of truth that are going to help you in your journey. So let me introduce you to my friend today is Dion Johnston. She is a founder and chief at womanleader.global. She is an ex-midwife and former director in public services. Dion now serves as strategic advisor to board-level women leading in some of the biggest national and multinational organizations across sectors and across the world. She believes that board-level leadership can change our world, and she's on a mission to spark a boardroom revolution led by women who are doing the personal work to own their authority. I love that, a boardroom revolution. And step into their power and express their true voice in the boardroom and beyond. Dion is also the author of the best-selling book, Influential Woman. So without further ado, let me introduce Dion Johnston. Welcome, Dion.
So excited about this conversation, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. I love that description, boardroom revolution. What a great picture to have in mind of as a place of influence that God wants women, kingdom women, to take their place. But Dion, before we get into some of the things that I know you want to share with us today, I would love it if you would share with our listeners what was the journey for you? How did you come to do what you're doing today?
Right. So, I think like most of us, we can see roots of our work today in our yesterday, in our childhood even. And I was born to immigrant parents who came to the UK in the 60s when the UK was really struggling and needed some help to build the NHS, to build our health service, build our economy. And so as part of the Commonwealth, my parents came over to the UK and really tried to set up roots here in a place called Bristol. Bristol,
Mm.
southwest of England, and it was really tough for my parents. Racism was really, really rife. There were a lot of English people who didn't understand why these people needed to be invading their land, and so my parents really went through a lot trying to lay roots and establish themselves here. And that really took its toll on my parents. They split up, and so my mum raised us on her own, and a single parent, and we were raised by my grandmother, her mother, while she went out to work all these jobs to really give the best start that she could.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking about this, I realized that that was a really important thing in my doing my work right now, because my grandmother and we just did not get on at all. I was mouthy, according to my gran. She didn't like my mouth, and she would tell me, children should be seen and not heard. We'd actually wrestle. She just didn't like how I would express myself, and she really wanted me to toe the line, listen to what she said, and don't argue back. And that was a huge deal in my growing up. I think lots of us can relate to that. When I speak with women right now, a lot of the people that are watching this will just really know what it is to be stifled in our expression, and learning quite early on that our voice and what we had to say wasn't really that important, and that we should keep it under wraps, and we should bite our tongue a little bit more. So that was that. I grew up in this very racially tense environment, and so there was no shortage of people who would let me know and let us know that we were different and that we were somehow inferior and second class. Those were messages that I was receiving quite early on in my childhood, and that would later on bear a really big influence on how I would show up in the workplace. And so there's all of these influences, but the biggest one, I think, was that I was born with a facial disfigurement. So I didn't develop conventionally in my mother's womb. I was born with quite a pronounced facial congenital disorder, and my face was asymmetrical. I had a gap in my lower face, didn't develop properly. So right from early on, I was going through a lot of surgery, lots of facial repairs and structural repairs, and the roof of my mouth and my face. And I was blind in my left eye, and it became disfigured over time. And so my childhood, there are lots of memories of being in hospital, and having lots of surgery done, lots of repair to my face. And when I was part of that process, when I was 4 years old, I did an artificial eye, which was this kind of plastic shell painted to look like my good eye. And it would sit over my disfigured eye. And then I would wear these great big glasses, these great big dark glasses, very dark, that would help me. They were given with love from the healthcare professionals around me, who wanted me to look a little bit more normal. Like they wanted me to hide my facial flaws. They wanted me to blend in a little bit more, not look like you, look like the people around me. And so I call that the beginning of my life behind the mask. I learned really early on that if something's not right about you, you put that thing away. You hide it. You camouflage it. You mask it. You put it away. And that's what I did all of my life. I wore this dark glasses, artificial eye, and I just didn't let people see the me behind my masks. I didn't let people understand what I look like. I faced the world with my mask on. And so I just went into school. I remember one day I didn't have my mask, and then the next day I did, and went into school and had to kind of, deal with people seeing this new me. And then from that day forward, I just let very, very, very few people know what I looked like behind my mask. And then that's how I lived my life. That's how I went into work. That's how I went, just how I went into relationships, although not consciously knowing.
Now, you're not talking about a physical mask.
Yeah.
You are talking about a physical mask.
Well, I wore these dark glasses. and
Mm-hmm.
the artificial eye. And I call that the beginning of my life behind the mask, because I didn't let anybody see what I looked like
Yes.
behind
The
these
glasses.
glasses. Yeah, they were
Wow.
really big dark glasses and a really opaque artificial eye. So yeah, nobody knew what I looked like behind there. That was how I showed up in my world, and I do call it a mask of sorts, you know.
Yeah, and you felt like that. So I'm wondering if those who are listening today, because what you said, metaphorically or actuality, that who can recognize that there are, I forget how you said, but something like, if there's not something right with you, then you need to hide it, was the message, right? And I'm wondering if those who are listening today, whether the live or the replay, if you can identify with that, message somewhere along the way, you picked up and believed that if there's something wrong with you or something not right, then you need to hide it or hide you and not show up fully for who you are. This is powerful, Dion.
It,
Continue.
it really was formative to the work that I was doing now. I didn't know it at the time, but what happened was I would live in my life, and this hiding thing was really getting in the way of my life. Like, I was double-minded. Like, on one hand, I knew that I was a powerful woman with
Mhm.
powerful things to say. And on the other hand, there were all of these other messages coming at me about how unpowerful I am and how not right I am. And so it kind of created this double-mindedness in me.
Mhm.
I knew I was powerful, and yet I knew I had to somehow not, there was something not right about me,
Mhm.
and in all kinds of different ways. And so this was a paradox. Like, I was living my life with this paradox, and it felt like life was stuttering. Relationships were difficult. I was really, like, people would say, yeah, she's a high flyer, but I wasn't making the kind of difference that I wanted to make. People would say, yeah, she's really mighty, Dion, she's really mighty, but I felt like I wasn't speaking my truth. There was all
Mhm.
of these kind of mismatches, like the life outside of the mask and the life behind the mask. It's just
Mm.
real sort of double life, kind of. And
Wow.
it was really a thing. And then in 2009, I got saved. I had this mighty encounter with God, with Jesus, in my early 30s. And by the time I was in my 40s, my Lord and I, we had been walking some time. And in 2009, a really special year globally, it was recession, just a bit like now. Obama, the black man, was moving into the White House. Everyone was talking about how change is possible. And everyone was talking about how there were these superstar people like Obama and Hillary Clinton, and Michael Jackson died that year. We were talking about Michael Jackson. And there was these conversations about the rest of us, those of us that were doomed because of recession, and we were going to be on the breadline, and the middle classes were under threat, and just all of this opposite kind of conversations. And I wondered, where do I fit in that?
Mm.
And it was like a wake-up call. You know how life wakes you up sometimes, like God just taps you on the shoulder and makes you aware of something. I became aware of this kind of double-minded life that I'd been living. I
Mm.
became aware that I feel like I'm great and I should be doing great things in the world. I was really progressing in my career on the outside, but on the inside, I knew that I was not making the kind of difference that I really wanted to make.
Yeah.
That I cared about being a public servant. I cared about the public sector work, but I just wasn't, like, outcomes were not shifting in that area, and I wanted to, but somehow just found it difficult to navigate showing up in my power in these spaces.
Wow.
And God spoke to me, and long story short, he said to me, Dion, I want you to stop hiding. I want you to take those things off your face. I want you to stop masking. I want you to show up for real. He said to me, Dion, when are you going to let people see and hear the real you? When are you going to let people experience what it is that you really are, who
Mm.
you really are? And I'm asking everybody that's watching this today the very same questions, because we were talking about my physical masks back
Yes.
then, but it soon became very clear on the journey that God was speaking to me about the me that he had created.
Mm-hmm.
He was speaking to me about me, the woman,
Yes.
me, the leader, me, the voice, me, the change maker. And he was asking me, when are you going to show up for real?
Mm.
And I was on my knees because something really awful had happened that day. And I remember being on my knees, crying out to God, saying, my life's hurting, God. And these were the questions that rose up within me.
Mm.
I want you to show up for real.
Wow.
And so I said, yes, God. I didn't know how, because I thought I was talking about just my face at that time. And I never let any, like, I've been walking all of my life, from childhood into my 40s. I've been walking with these masks on my face. I didn't know how to let people see what I looked like behind.
Wow.
I didn't know how to let people encounter this face. I had all kinds of fears about what people's reaction was going to be to the real me.
Mm-hmm.
But I went through this journey, this process of learning. I've got a coach. I got a counselor. I prayed and said yes to God, and heard the call and answered the call to really decide that I was going to let people see my face.
Wow.
And it's been an amazing journey, 13 years
Wow.
that this happened. And I have been walking out this journey of letting people not just see my face, but see me,
Mm-hmm.
hear me, hear my views, my voice, my point of view, learning how to show up for real, learning how to speak up with the true power that lives on the inside of me.
Yeah.
And this has been, I found, the foundation for the work that I'm doing now with my clients, who are board level women, who are waking up to the fact that there's more for them to be. They're feeling like one foot on the brake, one foot on the gas, and they want to make more difference. And I'm finding that the journey that the Lord has taken me on is absolutely relevant, whatever color these women are, whatever their face looks like, whatever, whatever they are dealing with, that there was lessons that the Lord taught me about showing up and using our voice for real that really helps my clients.
Wow. Wow. It's so powerful. I mean, all kinds of questions are going on in my mind right now. And I'm sure we could spend hours delving into some of the things that God, had to work in you in terms of in that process. Because I'm sure a lot of things started to come up, a lot of fears, a lot of anxieties, perhaps, or just the trauma of now having to be known in a different way and
For
making,
sure.
right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's been such an incredible journey. I found out through that journey, even though I've been walking with the Lord for quite some time, when He asked me to unmask,
Yeah.
I found that that there was a real disparity between how I spoke about myself to myself and how God spoke about me. So I found out that my identity was rooted in feeling ugly, feeling unlovable, feeling inferior, feeling second rate, feeling like a huge disappointment. And all of this came up when I said yes to God for
Wow.
unmasking. Like all of this, like not just all at once, but as I started to walk out, letting people see my face, and then later on see more of what I felt, more of what I know, what I had to say, I came right face to face with the what I call BFDLs, the big fat dirty lies that lived on the inside of me about me, and
Wow.
having to learn how to unravel that is what really was the curriculum for what I'm doing now with my clients.
Wow. Wow. I just want you who are listening today or listening to the replay, hear what Dion is saying here and really capture some of the things that may be applicable to your life. What I hear Dion saying is that the Lord invited her into a journey. And what she did was she surrounded herself with some people to help her walk out that journey, the coach, the counselor. And then she engaged in that process with the Lord, with those people, and embraced life, even though painful and scary and all those things. She embraced it, knowing that God, ultimately, if He had called her into this invitation, He had called her that there was a purpose that he was doing in her. And I want you to catch this, because you may be in that place where you were feeling that tension of, there's so much more, but yet I don't feel like I'm
Yes.
living life fully. I'm on hold in some way. And to be able to ask yourself, go ahead, Dion.
What you're saying is that you've summed it up so powerfully. And what I know about people that are watching and listening to this is that God is waking us up.
True.
God is waking us up to this knowing that there is more for us to be.
Yes. Yes.
There's more for us to say. There's more for us to create. There's more for us to do. There's more for us to make happen. And some of us, he's talking about making it happen in our professional lives. Like, God is waking us up. And it's so painful when you feel the call of God and the purpose of God in and on your life.
Mhm.
And you know that you're not showing up like that. You're not speaking up like that. It is really painful, I found.
Yeah.
And when do you remember in lockdown when George Floyd, the George Floyd murder?
Yeah.
Well, it really knocked me for six. It really knocked me off my feet for a while, and it took me a little minute to gather myself. But because I connected to a lot of women around the world, I wanted to reach out and see how everyone was doing. And so I did. I reached out to my network and I said, hey, how are you? What's happening with you in view of all that's happening in the world? And there were three really powerful responses. The first one was, just indifference. People who just, they thought it was hype, they didn't think it really affected them. And then there were people who were shocked that this was happening in this day and age. Like, why are we still having these difficult conversations about inequality and injustice and so on? But then there was this third group of people who I figure, because of what you've called this and what you stand for, I believe that this is a room full of these women who say, yep, I see that our world is in trouble. I see that there are issues that need to be fixed. I see that there is injustice or inequality or, inequity. Like, I see the problem that exists in my realm, in my space. And I feel like I just care so deeply about doing something about it. I just don't know what. I just don't know. I want our world to be better. I want this world to be a much more peaceful place. I want people to have rights to live their life fully. I want God's kingdom to come here on earth as it was in heaven. But I just don't know what to do. I just don't know how. I just don't know can I even make a difference? Am I enough? Can I make that difference? And God is saying a resounding yes.
Yeah.
Like, each of us there are no spare ones of us. So wherever it is that you are positioned, wherever it is that you are, those things that you care about, whether they be private, personal things, whether they be workplace things in your actual organization, or whether they be global things like big things happening in your world, if they are pulling at your heartstrings, God is saying today, you are called to be part of the solution. And it's time for you to take your mask off, get to know the woman behind there, and stand up in our power and speak. Show up. Open your mouth. It's time now. The world is aching. We can all feel it. Yeah. You'd have to be at the bottom of the ocean in a cave somewhere to not know that that there's something happening in our world. Yeah. And we as women are pivotal. Yes. When it comes to moving this thing forward.
That's so good. You hit the nail on the head right there. Is women know they want, but they's like, well, what can I do? And you just validate that. So I want to know in the chat, in the comments, what is God pulling on you? What is an area God is pulling on you? Just be able to identify and speak it out. And maybe you just need to take a moment, or, even through this conversation, God is highlighting something to you, an action or an area or something. Just put it in the comments, and so that we can support you in that as well. And we can say yes. So Dion, I know you had a dream that you wanted to share. I wonder if this would be a good time to do that.
Which is the perfect time. I've got goosebumps. I'm just really looking forward to sharing this.
I know. I can feel the presence of the Lord.
Yeah, me too. Now, I am a dreamer. I don't know about you, Lisa, but God speaks to me a lot in dreams. Like a lot of the work that I'm doing right now has been born out of dreams that God has given me. And last August, God spoke to me really clearly in a very powerful dream. I was walking along the road, a road. I like to think of it as the road of life. I was walking along the road with a man. I'm not sure if it was a physical man or just, but I felt the presence. Later, I realized that it's either an angel or the Spirit of the Lord or God Himself, the Father, just walking alongside me on the road. And we came up to a desk. Just a desk in the middle of the way, and it had a great big volume of a book on it. And he said, "This is a job application, and I'd like you to fill it in." And I was a bit perplexed, and he invited me to sit down at the desk and to apply for the job. I haven't filled in a job application for a long time. Like, I wasn't best pleased when he asked me to do this, but I sat down at the desk and I kind of reluctantly opened it up, and he was really sort of ushering me to go on, try and fill it in. So I opened up the first page. It was like a really great big book, and it asked my name. I was writing my name, and then it asked, my address. I started to write my address, and then I noticed something as I was filling out this form. I realized that it was already filled in. So I turned to the next page and I see, oh my goodness, the answers are already filled in. So I looked at him, and he looked like he was really excited for me to ask him what was going on. And I said, "What is this?" And he said, "You've already got the job. It's already filled in." He said, "But what I need you to do is I need you to move to it with all of your heart. I want you to go through the motions. Yes, turn the page, start writing, apply with all of your heart, apply yourself, go for it, go for this job." So I said, okay. So I started filling in the form, and then I thought, I don't know what job I'm applying for. And he said, mothers, wives, and queens. Mothers, wives, and queens. I looked perplexed. He could see I was perplexed. He said, don't worry, I'm going to explain everything. He said, not mothers in the home who kind of put a plaster on the boo-boo and put the baby to bed. He said, mothers of industry. He says, mothers who will birth out a whole new generation of leaders. A new breed of leaders, women who are going to be birthing out a new breed of leader with a new capacity to lead the world right side up. He said a new a calling on women, a job for women who are going to take up the role of mothers, who would birth a new generation of leaders who are conscientious, leaders who are righteous, leaders who are moral, leaders who are going to stand for something. He said, these women have already got the job. I just need them to wake up and go for it.
Wow.
Then he said, wives. He said, I've already given the job to those who I have called to be strategic partners in industry.
Wow.
These women are wives, not like the wives at home. He said the wives of industry who will be strategic overseers of operations. These women will organize things and manage with divine precision the workings of the marketplace. That these women will see to it that there is space for my will to be done. These women will make the way. They will organize, they will manage, they will lead in the level of operations.
Wow.
He said they've already got the job. All they need to do is go for it. All they need to do is apply themselves, and I will see to it that the doors will open.
Wow.
And then he said queens. He said queens are, he said, not like the world, like the world and his son and his dog are queens these days.
Right.
Like the way call it, everybody queen, girl,
Yeah.
He said, no. He said, queen is a divine designation. He said it's a heavy responsibility. He says he's raising up women who will go before the kings of systems,
Wow.
who will lead as captains of industry,
Mm.
who will shape systems and call systems into alignment with my divine will. These women have access to chambers, that kingly, regal leadership chambers, and I am raising them up.
Hmm.
Fixed, he said. They will get the job if they see themselves and apply,
Wow.
if they move to it.
Wow. I am like, my whole body is just in chills, like chills, goosebumps. Wow. That is so powerful.
This is our time. We are living in an age where our humanity is under threat.
Wow.
It's almost like you can't even say in the marketplace, you can't say man and woman, you've got to say they, and you have to think about your pronouns now. If you're not careful, you'll be cancelled for suggesting that
Yeah.
there is such a thing as woman.
Yeah.
Gender roles are being challenged.
Wow.
There is this huge fight
Wow.
to be a woman right now. But God is saying our voice is critical in this hour, and it is a woman's voice that he wants to use, and that we should reclaim these roles, mothers, wives, and queens of industry.
Of industry. Wow. 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 Ladies, wow. I'm just overcome here with the Spirit of God. This is so powerful, Dion. I totally agree that there's such a critical call right now that God is calling his women to come. Again, I'll repeat this because this is what the Lord said to me over a year ago. Come out of the cave and step into your calling. Come out of the cave and step into that pathway of your calling.
And I would add to it, like, come from behind the mask.
Come from behind the mask.
Come out of the cave and come from behind the mask.
Yes. Come out from underneath the covers, whatever it is you're hiding behind.
Yeah.
And come into your calling, because the Lord has already made a way.
Yes.
He's already made a way. He's already made a way. We just need to take that step in that direction and trust him to unfold. See, listen, ladies, we don't need to have it all figured out.
No.
We don't even need to know step 2. We just need to know step 1.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. When I was back there in 2009 with my hands up in the air, crying out to God, having that challenging, bizarre conversation about unmasking, I had no idea that it had anything to do with my work. I had no idea that it had anything to do with other women, or it just felt like this very painful private thing that I was going through. But over the years, it's just unfolded into this message that is changing lives genuinely. I can't even take the credit. Because I thought it was nonsense when the Lord said to me, unmask your face and unmask you. I didn't know what he was talking about. But it's the way that he leads us, the way that he guides us, is all about his plans and purposes and what he wants to do through our life. And I'm sure that people have said that already this week or in your series, but I really want people to understand that the life that you're living right now, the pain that you're experiencing, the problems, the wins, the things that you're overcoming, the things, your gifts, your talents, they're meant for something. And they're meant for something in the earth as it is in heaven.
Is so true. And to add to that, it's about the people that you are meant to reach. It's about the people that God has ordained you to be a messenger for.
Yeah.
I just think about Jesus saying, but for the joy set before me, I endured the cross. The joy of what? Knowing that we would be brought back into a relationship with the Father because of the work that he had to do on the cross. So the work that God is inviting us into is unto a bigger purpose, is unto an unfolding of something that we can't even imagine, I believe. But it's so powerful. And guess what? It will be so fulfilling. It will be so fulfilling because you know, yes, I was made for this.
Yes. Which I think, which I'm excited about sharing my Bible lady with you, because
Yes,
it really
please.
fits into what you were saying. So like I said to you in the green room, that I was really all set to come and talk to you about Esther, because it really fits this marketplace story that we've been talking about. But the Lord really impressed upon me to speak about Leah. And, Leah, for those that don't know, Leah was the wife of Jacob. But the way that she got married to Jacob, the father of the 12 tribes of Israel, was that she was the trick. So the story has it that, Jacob, he was a trickster. He
Mhm.
swindled his brother out of his birthright, and his Esau was really mad with him, so he wanted to kill him. So his mother Rebecca said, you need to get out of town. You need to go and see my cousin Laban and just stay there for a while and marry one of his people, because you're not safe here. Your brother wants to kill you.
Yeah.
So Jacob leaves and goes to Laban's house, and when he gets there, his uncle welcomes him into the fold, and he sees Rachel, Laban's daughter, and he's like angels come out, Valentine's Day, it's just Cupid plays his out, bow, and it's really, he falls in love with Rachel, and he asks for her hand in marriage, but he doesn't have any money. He doesn't have anything to pay a dowry. So Laban says, cool, you can have her, just work 7 years as a down payment for the dowry. So he works these 7 years. The Bible says that 7 years felt like 7 days, like it was just like it went by in the blink of an eye, because he was working for his beloved.
Mm.
And then the wedding night came, and he went into his wife. And the next morning when he woke up, he realizes that it's not Rachel, it's Leah, her older sister, that he had been palmed off on. Now, Leah, when we hear about her in the scriptures, the thing that we hear about her is we hear about her eye. Something was up with her face. Something was up with the way she looked, or something was going on with her features, because the Bible mentions her eye. They say tender-eyed. Some people say cross-eyed. Some people say blind. Some people say lazy-eyed. Like there's something going on here with her face that made her undesirable compared to her sister, who was called fair, beautiful, and of great countenance. So there was this kind of, Leah is a contradiction to the beautiful woman that her sister was. Somehow she was the booby prize. She was second rate. She was inferior to her sister, and here she was being palmed off to this man who had no interest in being her husband. He was tricked, he was incensed, and so he went into another 7-year plan with the father who gave him the desire of his heart. But the desire of his heart could not bear children. Leah, the ugly one, the one with the funny face, she was the one that was fruitful. She was the one that was bearing, she was just knocking children out. And the Bible tells us in great detail what was on her mind as she was doing this. She had a son called Reuben, and she, said, behold, I've had a son. Now my husband will love me because I've had a son. But he had eyes for Rachel. And then she had a son called, I can't remember who was next. Let me see. I did write it down. I can't remember who was next. Reuben. Don't know. Do you remember who was next? Basically,
That's okay.
yeah,
I'll look it up.
Simeon. She had
Simeon.
Simeon. And Simeon, she said, now I've had this, and God will hear me and make my husband love me. And then she had another one, Levi.
Levi.
And she took this Levi, she's like, oh, surely now God will join me to my husband now that he's, that now that I've given this third son.
Yeah.
And so she, in her mind, she's just desperate for her husband's affection. And it really, I knew why God was showing me Leah. One, because we've all got someone who we compare ourselves with. Sometimes it's our sister in the Lord. Sometimes it's somebody in our industry who's doing way better than us, or just seems to have it all down pat. This contradiction, this downplaying ourselves, this comparing ourselves with that one over there, and this effort, this extra effort that we're putting in, this striving to compete and compare and be better than this one. Like, this is something that we see in the workplace a lot. This is something that we see from women who are called in their own right to glorify God with their mouth and with their power, who are thinking of themselves in such a poor way that they're just trying to get one up on this one and one up on that one. That was her. But I love the story. It goes on to say that she had a fourth child, and this time she's not trying hard to get him to love her anymore. She's not trying to get his attention and get his affection. This one, she said, praise be to God.
Judah.
Praise be to God, Judah.
Mm.
Judah, who she realizes that God has given me this child. God has given me this gift. It's God's affection that I seek. It's God that's blessing me. It's God that I need to be focused on. It's God that I need to, like, we have a saying here in I don't know if you have it there, but for an audience of one now, she's just thinking about this is of the Lord. I'm blessed of the Lord. And the story goes on. It's quite a complicated story. We see a lot of this competition readjusts itself. We see the two sisters. We see Rachel going off of her head, insane with being able to have a baby. She was barren, the Bible says, and calling in her handmaiden to have some children with Jacob, and then Leah deciding that she's going to do the same. And then, so there's all this competitiveness, all this born out of low self-esteem.
Wow.
Born out of not really understanding who we are in God, born out of not really understanding what God has called us to do, and that we are enough, that our life is useful to God and his kingdom, and instead getting involved in all of this game playing and competition with our brothers and sisters. Like, this is why I feel God has asked me to speak to us today about Leah, because we've already got the job. The job is already ours. So, like, the way that it pans out for Leah is that she outlived Rachel, and she is the matriarch of the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yeah.
They both are. Rachel and Leah are the matriarchs of the Jewish people.
Yeah.
God's chosen. This is a metaphor for us, grafted in with the Abrahamic covenant. That we are God's. We're chosen.
Yeah.
We don't need to compare ourselves. And if our life is painful, if we're going through a barren season, if we're going through a fruitful season and we seem like we're winning, and our life is in the hand of God for his purposes. And I think these two sisters really show us clearly that God is going to have his glory in our life if we let him.
Wow. That's a powerful perspective on the story, bringing in there and just dovetailing with the dream. Wow, Dion, this has been such a rich time with you, and I know that there's, again, a lot of things we could continue to talk about. And ladies, if you're just joining us now, I'm not sure if that feedback is me.
I can hear it slightly.
Yeah. Ladies, if you're just joining us now, make sure you go back and listen to the beginning of the replay. You don't miss this conversation. There's so much here that I believe God wants to deposit into you, to ignite you, to awaken you. And I really concur with that, Dion. God is awakening his daughters from the slumber to say, no, this is the job. You already have the job. Walk in it and begin to walk with the Lord in that purpose that he has for you in this time in history, and see what he will do. So, Dion, I know that people may want to get in touch with you. How can they connect with you?
So in social media land, I'm Dion Johnson, board level leadership, and I'm always on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn in social media land is my jam.
Okay.
And you can come contact me by email, connect@dionjohnson.com, or my website, womanleader.global.
Awesome. So good. I know that we will connect again in the future, that this is, the continuing relationship. I really believe that God has allowed our lives to intersect for a reason. So thank you so much for what you share with us today and for the beauty that you emanate, the beauty that just comes off of you, and the inspiration and empowerment. Yes, it is very beautiful, and you are beautiful, Dion. Thank you for gracing us with your story, with your life, and thank you for coming out from behind the mask.
Thank you, Lisa, so much.
Because we see you and we love you.
Thank you.
So, ladies, I want to encourage each one of you to take what has been spoken today to heart and ask the Lord, where do you need to come out from behind a mask? Maybe where have you been hiding behind? Because the world needs what you have. The world needs to hear your voice. They need to see you. They need to know you. They need to know God in you. So be fearless and walk in the fullness of all that God has for you. Thank you, ladies, and thank you so much, Dion. Bless you.
See
you tomorrow.